Commander Vex-Thara adjusted her bioluminescent eye stalks, watching the latest batch of human recruits shuffle into the combat training facility aboard the Nexus station. Her mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among her species, the Kethnari. 23 cycles she had been training warriors from across the galaxy, and humans? Well, humans were special. "Oh, wonderful," she muttered, her translator converting her chittering into Galactic standard. Another group of pink, squishy bipeds who think they can fight because they have opposable thumbs and anger issues. The training hall stretched for roughly 50 meters, its reinforced durasteel walls bearing scorch marks from previous sessions. Combat drones hovered silently near the ceiling, their sensors tracking every movement. The air recyclers hummed steadily, working overtime to filter out the various atmospheric requirements of the mixed species aboard the station. At the front of the group stood Captain Maya Reeves, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation ponytail, green eyes scanning the facility with professional interest. Behind her, Lieutenant Jake Morrison cracked his knuckles with audible pops that made several alien observers wince. Sergeant Lisa Park adjusted her utility belt, while Corporal Tom Bradley whispered something that made his squad mates chuckle. "Attention, mammals!" Vex-Thara's voice boomed through the hall, enhanced by the facility's acoustic amplifiers. "I am Commander Vex-Thara, your primary combat instructor. For the next 6 rotations, you will learn to fight like proper warriors, not like the undisciplined barbarians your species is known for." Maya stepped forward, her posture relaxed but alert. "Commander, with all due respect, we've reviewed the training parameters. Our team has extensive combat experience across multiple theaters." "Oh, how delightful!" Vex-Thara's translator struggled with her sarcastic tone. "The humans think they know about fighting. Tell me, Captain Reeves, have you ever faced a grim Deathstalker in single combat? Have you dodged plasma fire while hanging upside down from a cliff face? Have you survived a zero-gravity knife fight with a species that has 6 arms?" "Well, no, but precisely my point." Vex-Thara's 4 arms gestured dismissively. "Your species fights wars with loud explosions and brute force. Here, we teach precision, technique, and actually staying alive long enough to see your offspring graduate from their larval stage." Jake snorted. "Lady, no offense, but humans have been fighting wars since before we figured out fire. We might surprise you." The Kethnari commander's mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth. "Surprise me? Lieutenant Morrison, the only thing that would surprise me is if you manage to complete this training without requiring medical regeneration more than, let's say 15 times. Lisa raised her hand. "Commander, what exactly makes this training different from standard military protocols?" "Excellent question, Sergeant Park." Vex-Thara activated a holographic display showing various combat scenarios. "Standard military protocols assume you're fighting enemies of similar capability. Here, you'll face opponents who can regenerate limbs, phase through solid matter, manipulate gravity, or simply eat your weapons for lunch. Literally." The hologram shifted, showing footage of previous training sessions. A towering, crystalline being shattered into pieces, only to reform seconds later. A slug-like creature absorbed incoming projectiles without apparent harm. A being of pure energy danced between laser blasts as if they were raindrops. "Sweet mother of—" Tom started, then caught himself. "That's actually pretty intense." "Oh, you think so?" Vex-Thara's tone dripped with mock sympathy. "How astute of you, Corporal Bradley. Now, since humans are supposedly such natural warriors, we'll begin with a simple exercise." She moved to a weapon rack containing various alien armaments, Her primary hands selected a wickedly curved blade, its edge humming with contained energy. Her secondary arms picked up two smaller throwing knives, their surfaces gleaming under the facility's lighting. "The test is elementary," she announced, twirling the larger blade with practiced ease. "I will attack. You will defend. Try not to die immediately, as the paperwork is absolutely dreadful." Maya's squad spread out instinctively, hands moving toward their sidearms. "Ah!" Vex-Thara waggled a finger. "No human weapons. Use what the station provides." She gestured toward a selection of training weapons nearby. "Choose wisely, though I suspect wisdom and your species have a rather distant relationship." The humans exchanged glances. Maya approached the weapon rack, examining the alien implements. Most were clearly designed for non-human physiology. She selected what appeared to be a staff weapon, its grip adjusting automatically to her hand size. "Interesting choice," Vex-Thara commented. "The Thechni battle staff requires patience, timing, and intelligence. Perhaps there's hope for you after all." Jake grabbed a pair of curved blades, their weight distribution oddly familiar despite their alien origin. Lisa chose a projectile weapon that resembled a crossbow, while Tom hefted what looked like an electrified club. "Ready?" Vex-Thara asked, not waiting for an answer. She launched forward with fluid grace, her four arms moving in a complex pattern. The main blade swept toward Maya in a deadly arc, while her secondary arms sent the throwing knives spinning toward Jake and Lisa. Maya's staff snapped up, deflecting the blade with a shower of sparks. The impact sent vibrations up her arms, but she held firm. Jake dove sideways, one throwing knife whistling past his ear to embed itself in the wall behind him. The second knife, however, was heading straight for Lisa. Time seemed to slow. Lisa was focused on her crossbow, trying to figure out its firing mechanism. The knife spun through the air, its trajectory perfect, its edge glinting with lethal promise. Without looking up, without even seeming to notice, Lisa's left hand shot out and caught the throwing knife by its handle. Her fingers closed around the grip with casual precision, as if she were catching a tossed ball rather than a weapon capable of penetrating armor plating. The training hall fell silent. Vex-Thara's four arms froze mid-motion. Her bioluminescent eyes dimmed, then brightened, then dimmed again as her neural processors struggled to analyze what she had just witnessed. Lisa finally looked up from the crossbow, noticing the sudden quiet. She glanced at the knife in her hand, then at the stunned alien commander. "Is class over?" she asked, her tone perfectly casual. Jake slowly picked himself up from the floor, staring at his squadmate. "Lisa, did you just catch a knife without looking?" Maya finished, lowering her staff. "Yeah, she did." Tom's electrified club slipped from his suddenly nerveless fingers, hitting the floor with a metallic clang that echoed through the silent hall. Vex-Thara's mandibles worked soundlessly for several seconds. When she finally spoke, her translator seemed to struggle with the concepts she was trying to express. "That is not, you did not." She paused, her bioluminescent patterns flickering rapidly. "How did you calculate the trajectory without visual confirmation? How did you determine the rotational velocity? How did you account for the gravitational variance between your homeworld and this station?" Lisa shrugged. "I heard it coming. Figured it was either catch it or get stabbed. Catching seemed like the better option." "You heard it coming." Vex-Thara's voice was flat, emotionless. "Yeah, it made this kind of whooshing sound, with a little whistle from the edge cutting through the air. Basic physics, really." "Basic physics." The commander repeated the words as if they were a foreign language. Maya stepped forward, sensing an opportunity. "Commander, with all due respect, humans have been throwing and catching things since before we developed written language. We play games where we hit small balls traveling at over 40 meters per second with wooden sticks. Children catch flying discs for entertainment. Our reflexes are, well, they're kind of our thing." Vex-Thara's eye stalks swiveled to focus on Maya. "Your thing." "Our thing," Maya confirmed. The alien commander moved to her weapon rack, selecting 3 more throwing knives. She held them in a fan pattern, their edges gleaming menacingly. "Very well," she said, her tone taking on a dangerous quality. "If reflexes are your specialty, let us see how specialized you truly are." Without warning, she launched all 3 knives simultaneously. One toward Maya, one toward Jake, one toward Tom. Each blade spun through the air at different angles, different velocities, different trajectories. Maya's staff intercepted the first knife with a precise block, sending it clattering harmlessly to the floor. Jake rolled sideways, letting his blade pass overhead before coming up in a defensive crouch. Tom, however, stood frozen as the third knife spun directly toward his chest. Lisa sighed, a sound of mild exasperation. Her right hand flicked out, plucking the spinning blade from the air as easily as she had caught the first one. This time, she examined the weapon more carefully, testing its balance. "Decent craftsmanship," she commented. "The weight distribution is a little off for optimal throwing, but the edge retention is excellent. What kind of alloy is this?" Vex-Thara's bioluminescent patterns had shifted to what any Kethnari would recognize as deep confusion mixed with growing concern. The alloy is not important," she stammered. "What is important is that you just again without looking—" "Oh, I was looking that time," Lisa corrected helpfully. "I saw it coming toward Tom, and he looked kind of panicky, so I figured I should help out." Tom nodded gratefully. "Thanks, Lisa. I owe you one." "No problem. We're a team, right?" Vex-Thara looked around the training hall as if seeking support from the walls themselves. The combat drones had descended slightly, their sensors focused intently on the human squad. "This is—" she began, then stopped. "This cannot be normal human capability. You must have undergone enhancement procedures, genetic modification, cybernetic implants, something." Maya shook her head. "Negative, Commander. We're all baseline human. No modifications, no enhancements. Lisa just has really good reflexes." "Really good reflexes," Vex-Thara repeated mechanically. "Well, I did play a lot of sports in school," Lisa offered. "Soccer, tennis, cricket. Oh, and I was on the knife-throwing team at the academy." "Knife-throwing team." The commander's translator seemed to be having difficulty with the concept. "Yeah, it's a pretty popular sport back on Earth. We throw knives at targets for accuracy and speed. It's good for hand-eye coordination and spatial awareness." Jake grinned. "Don't forget the juggling." "Oh, right. I also juggle. It's just a hobby, but it helps with tracking multiple objects in motion." Vex-Thara's eye stalks drooped slightly. "You juggle. For fun?" "For fun," Lisa confirmed cheerfully. The alien commander walked over to her weapon rack and selected a dozen throwing knives. She arranged them in a careful pattern on a nearby table, their edges forming a glittering array of sharp metal. "Sergeant Park," she said slowly, "I want you to understand something. These weapons are designed to kill. They are not toys. They are not sporting equipment. They are instruments of death, crafted by artisans who have spent centuries perfecting their lethality." Lisa nodded seriously. "I understand, Commander." "Good." Vex-Thara picked up 6 of the knives, one in each hand. Because I am about to. Throw all of these at your squad simultaneously, from multiple angles, at combat velocity. Maya tensed. Commander, that seems unnecessarily. Your sergeant believes she can catch flying objects, Vex-Thara interrupted. Let us test that belief under properly challenging conditions. The Kethnari commander backed up to the center of the training hall, positioning herself for optimal targeting angles. Her forearms moved in a complex warm-up routine, loosening muscles and joints for maximum throwing accuracy. This is insane, Tom muttered. She's going to kill us. No, Maya said quietly, watching Lisa's expression. I don't think she is. At least, not if Lisa's as good as she seems to be. Lisa was studying Vex-Thara's movements, her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something only she could hear. Her stance had shifted subtly, weight balanced on the balls of her feet, hands loose at her sides. You know, she said conversationally, this reminds me of a game we used to play back home. Five-Knife Monty. Except, usually, there weren't this many people who could get hurt if I missed. If you missed? Jake asked incredulously. Well, yeah, I'm good, but I'm not perfect, though I haven't missed in, about 3 years now. Vex-Thara's preparations were complete. She held the 6 knives in a spread pattern, their points gleaming under the harsh training lights. Are you ready, humans? She called out. Maya looked at her squad. Jake was crouched in a defensive position, ready to dodge. Tom had backed against a wall, his face pale but determined. Lisa stood calmly in the center of their group, looking almost bored. Ready, Maya called back. Vex-Thara's forearms moved in perfect synchronization. 6 knives launched through the air simultaneously, each following a different trajectory. 2 spun toward Maya from opposite sides. One headed for Jake's midsection. Another arced high toward Tom's position. The final 2 knives were aimed directly at Lisa. One high, one low, their timing offset by mere milliseconds. For a heartbeat, the air was filled with spinning metal death. Then Lisa moved. Her hands flashed through the air in a pattern too fast for most eyes to follow. One knife disappeared into her left palm. Another vanished into her right. A third knife materialized in her grip as she spun sideways. The 4th and 5th knives seemed to simply cease their flight, appearing in her hands as if by magic. The 6th knife, the one aimed at Tom, hung in the air for a moment longer. Lisa glanced at it almost dismissively, then reached out with her foot and kicked it gently aside. The blade tumbled harmlessly to the floor. The entire sequence had taken less than 2 seconds. Lisa straightened up, now holding 5 alien throwing knives in various grips. She examined them with professional interest, testing their balance and edge alignment. These are actually really well made, she commented. The metallurgy is impressive. What's the hardness rating on this steel? Vex-Thara stood frozen in her throwing stance, all 4 arms still extended from her release position. Her bioluminescent patterns were cycling rapidly through the entire Kethnari emotional spectrum. That is not possible, she whispered. Lisa looked up from her examination of the knives. What's not possible? What you just did. It violates several fundamental laws of physics. Biological reaction times cannot process that much spatial information that quickly. Neural pathways cannot coordinate that level of precision under combat stress. It is literally impossible. Huh? Lisa considered this. Well, I did it anyway, so maybe your laws of physics need some updating. Maya stepped forward, sensing the commander's distress. Commander, Lisa's reflexes are exceptional, even by human standards. But she's not unique. We have athletes who can hit a baseball traveling at 50 meters per second, pilots who can react to threats in milliseconds, Soldiers who can track and engage multiple targets simultaneously. Multiple targets, Vex-Thara repeated numbly. Multiple targets, Maya confirmed. It's part of our basic combat training. The Keth-Nari commander walked unsteadily to a nearby bench and sat down heavily. Her eye stalks drooped as she processed what she had witnessed. In 23 cycles of training, warriors, she said quietly, I have never seen anything like this. The Thekni battle masters take decades to develop such reflexes. The grim Death Stalkers are born with enhanced neural processing. The Vorthon phase dancers exist partially outside normal space-time. But you are just human. Just human, Lisa agreed cheerfully, offering the captured knives back to the commander. Vex-Thara looked at the weapons in Lisa's hands, then at Lisa's face, then back at the weapons. Keep them, she said faintly. I think I need to reconsider my training protocols. Jake couldn't contain his laughter anymore. It started as a chuckle, then built into full belly laughs that echoed through the training hall. Oh man, he gasped between breaths. The look on her face. Did you see her face when Lisa caught that first knife? It was like she'd seen a ghost. Jake, Maya warned, though her own lips were twitching with suppressed amusement. No, it's fine, Vex-Thara said, waving a weary hand. He is correct. I was surprised. It has been some time since I experienced genuine surprise. Tom had recovered enough to speak. Commander, what happens now? Do we continue the training? Or Vex-Thara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Oh, we continue. Perhaps I should learn something about human capabilities before I design your training regimen. She stood up, her composure partially restored. Tell me, humans, what other impossible things does your species consider normal? Maya exchanged a meaningful look with her squad before answering. Well, Commander, that's a pretty broad question. Where would you like us to start? Start with something simple, Vex-Thara said, settling back onto her bench. Something that would not cause my cardiovascular system to experience additional stress. Jake scratched his chin thoughtfully. How about this? Tom here can estimate distance and wind speed just by looking and feeling. No instruments, no calculations. Just eyeball it and nail a target at 800 meters. Tom shrugged modestly. It's not that special. Most snipers can do it. You just learn to read the environment. Read the environment, Vex-Thara repeated, her translator working overtime to convey her growing bewilderment. Elaborate, please. Sure. Tom walked over to one of the training hall's viewports, which offered a view of the station's exterior docking bays. See that maintenance craft out there? The one near the third docking tower? Vex-Thara's eye stalks swiveled to track his pointing finger. Yes, the Belkan repair vessel. It is approximately 600 meters from this position. 623 meters, Tom corrected casually. There's a microcurrent in the station's atmospheric recycling system, creating a slight crosswind from the port side. Velocity roughly 4 meters per second. The artificial gravity in this section is running about 2% below standard, which would affect projectile drop over that distance. The Keth-Nari commander's bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly. How could you possibly know any of that information? The distance? Perspective reference points. I know that docking tower is 40 meters tall from the technical specifications we reviewed before boarding. I can use that to calculate relative distances. The wind? I can feel the air circulation on my skin. The gravity variance? My inner ear detects the slight difference in gravitational pull. Jake nodded enthusiastically. And that's not even his best trick. Show her the thing with the sounds, Tom. What thing with the sounds? Vex-Thara asked, though her tone suggested she was no longer certain she wanted to know. Tom closed his eyes and tilted his head slightly. There are 47 distinct mechanical systems operating within audible range right now. The primary life support pumps are running at 96% efficiency, which means they'll need maintenance within the next 2 rotations. Someone in Section C7 is using a plasma torch, probably for hull repairs, and there's a small coolant leak in the ventilation system about 3 decks above us. That is completely impossible, Vex-Thara stated flatly. Organic hearing cannot differentiate between that many simultaneous sound sources. Actually, it can, Lisa interjected. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We had to track prey across long distances, often by following sounds and scents that other predators couldn't detect. Our brains are wired to process massive amounts of sensory data and extract useful patterns. Persistence hunters, the commander muttered, making notes on a datapad that had materialized in one of her hands. Continue. Maya decided to test the waters further. Jake here has perfect spatial memory. He can navigate complex environments after seeing them only once. No maps, no guidance systems. Define complex environments, Vex-Thara said suspiciously. Jake grinned. Last month, our unit was deployed to an abandoned mining complex on Kepler 438b. 17 levels, over 2,000 interconnected chambers, multiple emergency lockdown zones, and a layout that had been modified dozens of times over 3 centuries. I walked through it once with the advanced scout team. And when our main force arrived 2 days later, and their navigation systems failed due to mineral interference, I led 400 soldiers through the entire complex to complete the mission. Never took a wrong turn, never had to backtrack. Vex-Thara's mandibles worked silently for several moments. That level of spatial processing requires computational power beyond organic neural capacity. Maybe for your species, Jake said with a shrug. For humans, it's just paying attention to details, counting steps, noting landmarks, building a mental map as you go. Sailors have been doing it for thousands of years. Thousands of years, the commander repeated weakly. Oh, that's nothing, Lisa said cheerfully. Humans have been developing specialized abilities for much longer than that. Maya here can read micro-expressions and body language so accurately that she can predict what someone's going to do before they do it. Maya held up a hand. That's an exaggeration. I can just read non-verbal cues better than most. It's useful for negotiations and tactical planning. Demonstrate, Vex-Thara commanded, leaning forward with interest. All right. Maya studied the alien commander carefully. You're planning to test us again. Something more challenging than the knife exercise. You're curious about our capabilities, but also concerned about the implications for your training program. You're wondering if other human units possess similar skills, and you're already formulating a report for your superiors. Vex-Thara's bioluminescent patterns froze completely. That is disturbingly accurate. Your posture shifted when we started describing our abilities. You've been taking notes, but your primary hands are gripping the datapad more tightly than necessary, indicating stress. Your eye stalks keep swiveling toward the weapons rack, suggesting you're planning another combat exercise. And you've glanced at the communication panel 6 times in the last 5 minutes, which means you're thinking about contacting someone. 7 times, Vex-Thara corrected automatically, then immediately looked frustrated with herself for confirming Maya's assessment. Tom chuckled. Don't feel bad, Commander. Maya once predicted an entire negotiation strategy just from watching the opposing delegation walk into the room. She had our counterarguments prepared before they even sat down. It's not magic, Maya explained. Humans are social creatures. We've evolved to read each other's intentions for survival. Parents need to understand what their children need. Hunters need to coordinate without verbal communication. Traders need to know if someone is lying about a deal. These skills developed over hundreds of thousands of years. Vex-Thara was scribbling frantically on her datapad now. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Your species appears to have developed multiple forms of enhanced sensory processing as standard evolutionary adaptations. We prefer to think of it as being well-rounded, Jake said with a grin. Well-rounded. The commander looked up from her notes. Tell me, what other aspects of human capability might I find surprising? Lisa and Maya exchanged another look, this one tinged with mischief. Well, Lisa said slowly, there's the thing with pattern recognition. What thing with pattern recognition? Show her, Maya. Maya walked over to one of the training hall's tactical displays and activated a random data stream. Numbers, symbols, and graphs scrolled across the screen in an apparently chaotic pattern. This is real-time sensor data from the station's external monitoring systems, Maya explained. Traffic control information, energy readings, communication logs, maintenance schedules. To most beings, it would appear to be random data. She watched the display for perhaps 30 seconds, her eyes tracking the scrolling information with casual interest. But it's not random, she continued. There's a supply convoy approaching from the Rigel sector. 3 heavy transports and an escort frigate. They'll arrive in approximately 4 hours. One of the transports is carrying medical supplies, another has engineering components, and the third is loaded with recreational materials. The escort is running a standard patrol pattern, but their energy signature suggests they're carrying experimental weaponry for field testing. Vex-Thara stared at the display, then at Maya, then back at the display. That information is not contained in this data stream, she said carefully. Not explicitly, Maya agreed. But it's there if you know how to look for it. The traffic control data shows approach vectors and timing. Energy signatures indicate cargo types. Communication logs reveal priority levels and special handling requirements. The patterns tell the story. You extrapolated all of that from 30 seconds of observation. Give or take, Maya said casually. The Keth-Nari commander stood up and walked to the display herself, studying the scrolling data intently. Her 4 eyes tracked the information streams, her bioluminescent patterns flickering as she processed what she was seeing. After several minutes, she stepped back with a frustrated hiss. I can identify perhaps 10% of what you claim to see, she admitted. And I have been analyzing tactical data for over 2 decades. Tom leaned against a nearby wall. Commander, can I ask you something? What's the standard reaction time for a Keth-Nari warrior? Approximately 0.4 seconds for visual stimulus response, Vex-Thara replied, grateful for a question she could answer with confidence. And that's considered fast in the Galactic community? Among the fastest, yes. Only the Vorthan phase dancers and the grim Deathstalkers demonstrate superior reaction times. Interesting. Tom pulled a small metal coin from his pocket. Human average is about 0.25 seconds. But under combat conditions, with adrenaline and training, we can get down to 0.1 seconds or better. He flipped the coin into the air, a casual motion that sent the small metal disc spinning upward. Jake, heads or tails? Jake's hand shot out, snatching the coin from the air before it reached the peak of its arc. Heads, he said, opening his palm to reveal the result. Vex-Thara's eye stalks drooped. The coin had not completed its rotation. There was insufficient data to determine the outcome. Didn't need to see the outcome, Jake explained. I could feel the rotation when I caught it. The weight distribution told me which side was up. You determined the result by tactile sensation alone? Sure. It's not that hard once you get the hang of it. Lisa was juggling the alien throwing knives now, the blades spinning in a complex pattern that would have been lethal if she made even the slightest error. She wasn't even looking at them, instead focusing on the conversation. The really fun part, she said, conversationally while razor-sharp metal spun inches from her face, is that we're not even exceptional by human standards. We're good soldiers, but we're not Olympic athletes or professional performers or master craftsmen. Olympic athletes? Vex-Thara inquired weakly. Humans who have trained to the absolute peak of physical and mental capability, Maya explained. They compete in contests of speed, strength, precision, and endurance. Some of them can run 100 meters in under 10 seconds. Others can leap over 2 meters straight up. Some can hold their breath for over 20 minutes. 20 minutes, the commander repeated. Oh, and then there are the really specialized ones, Tom added. Humans who can memorize the exact order of 52 randomly shuffled cards after seeing them once. People who can calculate cube roots in their heads. Artists who can carve sculptures so detailed you'd think they were photographs. Jake nodded enthusiastically. Don't forget the endurance records. Humans have run over 1,000 kilometers without stopping. We've stayed awake for over a week. Some of us can survive in environments that would kill most other species within minutes. Vex-Thara sank back onto her bench, her datapad forgotten in her lap. This is not possible, she said quietly. A species cannot have so many specialized capabilities. Evolution does not work that way. You cannot be simultaneously optimized for speed, strength, endurance, sensory processing, pattern recognition, spatial awareness, and social cooperation. Who said we were optimized? Maya asked. We're generalists. We're decent at lots of things instead of being perfect at one thing. It's a survival strategy. But that makes no sense. Specialization is the key to evolutionary success. Every successful species in the galaxy has evolved to excel in one particular niche. Lisa caught all 5 throwing knives in one hand and finally looked at the distraught alien commander. Maybe that's the problem, she said gently. Maybe that's why humanity seems so strange to the rest of the galaxy. Everyone else specialized. We stayed flexible. The training hall fell silent except for the steady hum of the life support systems. Vex-Thara sat motionless for a long moment, processing everything she had learned. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Do you realize what this means? She asked. If human capabilities are truly this diverse, if your species combines this level of adaptability with technological advancement and coordinated tactics, it means we might actually be useful in a fight? Jake suggested helpfully. It means, Vex-Thara said, standing up with renewed determination, that I need to completely redesign not just your training program, but every training program in the Galactic Defense Force. We have been preparing for wars against specialized enemies. We have never considered what it would mean to fight alongside generalized allies. She activated her communication panel with one hand while gathering her weapons with the other 3. Command, this is Instructor Vex-Thara. I need to speak with the Training Division Director immediately. Priority Alpha. The panel crackled to life. Instructor, this is Command. What is the nature of your emergency? I need to recommend immediate revision of all combat training protocols. The humans are not what we expected. Elaborate. Vex-Thara looked at the 4 humans standing calmly in her training hall. Lisa still casually holding a handful of deadly weapons. Maya already analyzing the communication system's response patterns. Jake memorizing the layout of every control panel in sight. Tom listening to mechanical systems 3 decks away. "The humans are significantly more dangerous than we calculated," she said finally. "I recommend we consider ourselves very fortunate that they are on our side." She closed the communication link and turned back to face the squad. "Well," she said, her mandibles spreading in what might have been a smile, "I believe this concludes today's lesson, though I suspect you have taught me far more than I have taught you." Maya stepped forward with a respectful nod. "Commander." "For what?" "It's worth. We appreciate the opportunity to train with the Galactic Defense Force. Working with other species has taught us a lot about different approaches to combat and strategy. And we're looking forward to learning more," Lisa added, finally setting the throwing knives aside. "Even if we have to catch a few more knives along the way." Vex-Thara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to what any Kethnari would recognize as genuine amusement mixed with anticipation. "Oh, Sergeant Park," she said, gathering up her remaining weapons, "I have a feeling that catching knives will be the least of what you'll encounter in the battles to come. The galaxy is about to discover what happens when humans go to war." She paused at the training hall's exit, looking back at the squad one final time. "Class dismissed. And humans, welcome to the fight."